So a database is a structure that allows us to store data in a more organized manner. Okay, so we've talked about different ways to store data in our Android phones, such as shared preferences. Although all those methods that we talked about are wonderful and useful, for more complex applications, we need a more structured way to organize our data. That's when databases come to play. So a database is a structured way of organizing data. On top of that, a database also allows us to retrieve that data quicker and more efficient. So here is a representation of a database. Okay, so a database itself, you can see to the left here, right? It's just a reservoir. And inside of that database, then we can organize the data into tables. Okay, as you can see to the right. So we can create tables such as person table. Inside of that person table, you notice we have rows and columns. Okay, so data, that's how the data is organized as in rows and columns. So you can see a representation of a table here. We have on the first column, we have an ID. So these IDs are incremental, meaning as we add items to our table, in this case person table, we can add a name, we can see James, and an age column. Okay, so as we start adding items, rows will be incrementally added. The first time we add James and the age of 29, we create the first ID number 1. The second time around, we create another item, Santos, age 38, we have ID number 2. As we add more and more items, that ID will continue to increment. As you can see, this is a very organized way to store data that we can later retrieve. And the other thing about databases is that we can later relate all those tables data for a faster retrieval of that data. Okay, so all those tables, we can create relationships, and we can have as many tables as we want. We can have databases with hundreds and thousands of tables. Okay, so in a nutshell, this is a representation of what a database is internally. So we have a reservoir to the left. You see that reservoir there. And inside we have tables. We can add as many tables as we want. And inside of each table, we have an ID which increments, okay, as we add items. And then we have a column of name, column age. We could have had another column of address, column of, for instance, is married. So where we can store booleans, yes or no, and so many other columns. All right, so let's go ahead and then start looking at how to implement databases. See you next.